My name is Abdi Gudina, and I'm a PhD student at Kent State University. The topic for my project says racial disparities in inflammatory breast cancer survival in the Michigan Cancer Surveillance Program. As a background, inflammatory breast cancer, or IBC, is the most aggressive form of breast cancer, largely due to the metastatic potential of the disease. At diagnosis, 30% of IBC patients present metastatic, whereas only 10% of non-IBC breast cancer patients present metastatic at diagnosis. In the US, IBC incidence count is less than 2%, whereas IBC disease count is about 10% of breast cancer a day. So this shows how aggressive the IBC cancer is. In the recent few decades, there is a tremendous improvement in IBC treatment, especially due to the introduction of multimodality treatment options such as chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and surgical. But still, the prognosis of IBC remains worse as compared to non-IBC patients. The contribution of hereditary versus environmental or lifestyle as a risk factor for inflammatory breast cancer remains a subject of controversy. However, previous studies suggest that longer duration of breastfeeding, younger age at first birth, and higher BMI or body mass index is associated with increased IBC. One of the challenges of diagnosing IBC is due to the lack of standard case definition, plus the fact that IBC is a relatively rare disease. So these things have severely limited our understanding of the disease. So various classification systems have been used to identify IBC over time, especially in the SEER registry and other cancer registry as well. So among these pathological definition, clinical definition, comprehensive definition, and AJCC or American Joint Committee on Cancer are those classifications of method of identifying IBC. However, at the recent time, the most widely referenced case definition is AJCC. Because of this varying definition, it is really difficult to compare incidences of IBC across different regions or across countries. Higher IBC incidence and worse survival of IBC is observed among African Americans as compared to Caucasians. While racial disparities in IBC incidence is fairly well documented, less is known whether IBC prognosis differs by race ethnicity. That is what the current project is going try to see. So the current study is using comprehensive case definition of IBC to identify cases from recently obtained data from Michigan Cancer Registry. There are two objectives for this study. The first one is to examine potential impact of cancer registry coding changes, because changes over time, on the ascertainment of IBC by comparing cases which are identified by comprehensive case definition versus AJCC or American Joint Committee on Cancer definition. And the other objective is to assess the racial disparities of IBC survival using the data from Michigan Cancer Registry from 2004 to 2014. That's for the 10 consecutive years. When we come to the method part, as I've already mentioned, the source of the data for this study is a Michigan Cancer Surveillance Program. And this registry is a statewide population-based registry which has been in operation since 1981. The challenge is obtaining this data is really too slow and a very lengthy process. And what I was asked first to take the city training, and then I did that, and we applied for IRB approval through my mentor, Dr. Kelly Irko. But within the registry, there are about 5 stages of process that the approval should go through, and then that is where it is right now, still its own process. The outcome of interest in this study is the survival time since diagnosis, and the primary exposure of interest is race ethnicity. So to see if the survival of IBC patient is really significantly different, differ by race ethnicity or not. That's one of the objectives. So in this study, I'm going to see whether IBC definition or comprehensive criteria and the AJCC criteria are significantly different in capturing IBC from other breast cancer. With regard to statistical analysis, chi-square for the categorical variables and the t-test for the continuous variable will be used, and the Kaplan-Meier product limit, that is to compare the survival difference between different races and ethnicities, and whether the difference in survival is significantly different or not will be tested using log rank test. And finally, Cox proportional hazard model will be applied to estimate the survival ratio for different race ethnicities. And that Cox proportional hazard will account or control for potential confounders. And the potential confounders that will be addressed in this study are age at diagnosis that potentially affect the survival of individuals, treatment modality, whether they receive chemotherapy, radiation therapy, or surgery, whether they receive all or some of that will also be accounted or controlled for. Cancer stage, income, marital status, comorbidity, and the body mass index will be accounted for. Data analysis in this study will be performed using SAS. I'm no data right now at hand, that's why I can't show you the findings, but by the time I will have the data, this is how I'm going to put the numbers, and I will plug in the numbers. So this is the demographic and the clinical characteristics of the study population, and I'm going to see how it differs across race ethnicity, and then hazard ratio to see whether the survival is significantly different between different races and ethnicities. With regard to proposed future analysis, data cleaning, data management, and analysis will be conducted, and I will also continue working on the write-up of the paper. I've already written the introduction part and the methodology part, and my mentor, she edited, and we are already done with this, and then continue working on the results and discussion, the final conclusion by the time we receive the data. And then presenting the findings on scientific conferences in the future, and finally publishing the paper on peer-reviewed journal. That's the ultimate goal of this project. With regard to learning experience, really this project gave me opportunity to review different literature and to understand better about cancer epidemiology in general, not only for IBC, but in general. I have reviewed different papers and watched videos, so really it was a good opportunity for me to understand cancer, which I don't have a lot of exposure with regard to cancer studies before. And then survival data analysis. I took a course on survival data analysis, but I got the opportunity to review it again, revise it, and do a lot of SAS codings and also manuscript writing, which I've already written part of my paper. For future students, the data which I'm working on it is just only statewide data, so I'd suggest to work on national data at a wider scale and then replicate similar study worldwide in different countries and then compare the findings and see if the survival of the IBC patient differs across countries and factors associated with that differences. And then meta-analysis is also another area that need to be done. With regard to career goals and the plans, I love to dealing with data, especially analyzing data, and then because my master's is in biostatistics, so I would like to work as a biostatistician or epidemiology in research or academic institution. And in the future, I would like to work as a teacher, as a professor or researcher at higher institution. Finally, I would like to thank Dr. Keliko. She's my mentor, and I would like to thank Dr. Solomon for giving me this opportunity. This is a reference. That's all.
Questions, comments?
I noticed that on your slide about co-founders, you have current marital status. What's the logic? Why do you think marital status might be a confounder?
That's a good question. Because of the social support component attached to it, people who receive better social support live better life and also longer life. And the different studies shows that. So people who are married receive better social support.
That's very insightful, and from what I've read, this is clearly true for men. You know, being an unmarried man is a risk factor, but I don't think that's been demonstrated for women. But it's an interesting proposition.
The men take away the burden, or the women take away the burden from the men.
I didn't see explicitly how it works, but it says, literature says social support impacts life longevity and health quality in general, but yours is very specific.
Well, since your study is about women, it would be important to put that rationale based upon the literature into your paper.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abdi.